Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. The Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodleknits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to another episode of Pattern Design Circle podcast. I am so excited to be here chatting with you in your ear. And I just thought I would share for the record, if you're somebody who's like, why is she always so excited to be on podcast? And especially because I have a video version as well. I know it's a struggle for a lot of people to want to show up and, all of the things. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not always excited to show up in the world and show my face and all of the things. I typically record podcasts one day a month, maybe 2 days a month. So yes, even the last few days, it's been like, oh, I didn't necessarily, it's just been on my mind that it's time to record podcasts again. I hadn't set a specific date, especially because I had a lot going on. But, even this morning, it's like, am I going to feel like it? Am I going to look okay? And all of the things. And the thing is, once I actually think about the podcast and start to record and everything, I always love it. I do. But I just want to be clear that I'm not always excited about the idea of recording process. Like I know I love the podcast, but I don't always feel like I'm in, I don't know, the best shape to be recording or anything like that. And honestly, I never am, but here we are, right? So I hope that gives you some inspiration to know that I think everybody has days when they don't feel like showing up. And sometimes the inspiration and the motivation comes in the actual doing. So anyway, for the actual podcast episode today, I'm very excited to be talking about following through with your plans. So we have had this whole series of there's been 5 episodes so far about planning, goal setting, all of the things. And I promised that we would have a couple more episodes following up on that. We had a couple of guest episodes in there. We do have another guest episode coming up, but I promised that we would follow back through on this conversation once we were kind of a month in and looking at how things are going. So if you planned at the beginning of the year or before the beginning of the year, how are things going for you? How's the year started off? Do you feel like you're achieving things? Do you feel like you're following through on your plans, or you feel like a little bit defeated? I know for myself, I typically plan very beginning of the year or before the beginning of the year. And by February, or at least by mid-February, I am exhausted. I start with all this excitement and enthusiasm, and then I'm just kind of like, I'm done with this in February. This year, I've shared already before that it's a little bit different. I haven't done all of the planning I typically do. I still haven't actually done that. I guess that's something I'm hoping to do this month, but I kind of brought a lower level energy into the year, for better or for worse. I definitely feel like it was the right thing for this year. And because of that, I'm not exhausted. And even though it's February, my energy is just kind of really starting to pick up, and my excitement for some things So hopefully I don't crash in March, right? March is usually the month. March is my birthday month. Um, and March is also, the beginning of spring naturally in the northern hemisphere. So March tends to be the month that I really have, like, that's my prime idea, excitement, follow through all of the things. So hopefully I don't crash in March. But so this episode is all about, all right, if you're struggling with actually achieving the things, or if you're worried, like, like, all right, 3 months in, 6 months in, I always kind of just, yeah, I lose it. Or I just never seem to actually achieve my goals and my plans. We're going to talk about several ways we can follow through and make things more successful. I am hoping this is a super long episode. If it's, more than like 45 minutes, I might split this into 2 episodes. So you'll know, I guess, at the end. Uh, if you see another episode. And yeah. Anyway, I also want to say, have like a little asterisk here, note that these are, suggestions, recommendations. These are things that are amazing, that work, but not everything always works in every season. So know where you're at, know what you need, know what's going to help you through. I know for myself, sometimes it's been easy to just push through and do all the productivity things and yada, 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 hustle culture. And if we keep pushing through that too much when it's not the right thing to do, we just push ourselves further into burnout and exhaustion and overwhelm. And we don't want that. Okay. So a lot of these things are actually to help that. But just want you to know, be mindful of where you're at. If you need to stop and rest, do that. Be mindful of what's most important to you. Be mindful, obviously, if you need to make money, that's a big factor of, exactly what you're doing and things like that. But yes, just want to say, you don't have to do all of the things. You can pick and choose. If there are things that you're like, I don't really want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work, or that kind of pushes me outside my comfort zone. That isn't necessarily what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking more about like alignment. Sometimes pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, sometimes trying things new and different ends up actually being the thing that really helps. So, alrighty, let's go ahead and jump into it. I have created some worksheets. If you're on my email list and have been for a while, you would have already seen these at the beginning of the year, but I've created some downloadable, printable worksheet things that can help with this kind of stuff. So there's a link to that in the description of this podcast episode. There's like 20 different designs. I don't remember exactly. I had a lot of fun with it, but they are, and I'll talk more about all of this stuff in the podcast as well. But on it, there's a top 3 priorities list for personal, business, family life. There's also a top 3 priorities for the day, the week, and the month. If you're watching the video version, you can see I am showing kind of my printouts here that I have written on. There's a weekly tasks and priority list and a to-do list. And then there's space to create your own daily schedule. So, and there might be more that I didn't print out. I don't remember exactly, but I know for sure those 5 are in every single bundle, every single design, and then there's multiple color schemes per option, per design, like theme. And you can download them, you can fill them in digitally, you can print them as often as you want and write them out. I like to make things reusable. If you don't know, I use a whiteboard notebook thing so that I'm not wasting paper, but I still am writing it down and I can check it off and erase it and all the things. So I can leave a link to that too because I think it's super amazing. But what I'm trying to say is that so what I did for my lists, these printables, is I printed one copy of each and then I laminated them. So yes, I bought a laminator just for the sake of these lists and others that I'm wanting to make as well. But that means that I can then just use dry erase markers on them and super easy. So I think you can send them somewhere to be laminated. You could just use like packing tape if you want, shipping tape, to sort of laminate it yourself. Um, and somebody recently recommended you could also just use sleeves for like the plastic sleeves and write on them. So anyway, um, if that is something that will be a helpful resource for you, please check it out. I would love for you to use it because I had a lot of fun creating them. Anyway, alrighty, into the podcast content. First of all, in order to follow through with our plans and our goals, kind of need to have a game plan. So really having direction and focus is going to be important. And we'll talk about this in multiple facets in this episode. But really having an idea of what am I working on and when. So let's say I kind of have four big main goals for the year. I might want to choose to split those into quarters. Maybe I don't know exactly which quarter I'm focusing on each thing. Maybe I do. Regardless, knowing what you're focusing on for this quarter is going to be really important. And then maybe you break that down into monthly. So this quarter, I am focusing on XYZ. In order to do that, in January, I need to focus on this. In February, I need to focus on this. And in March, I need to focus on this. Really having a game plan for how you are going to get things done is important so you don't just push it off until later in the year. And it also helps with the next point I have on here, which is to make sure that this whole plan is reasonable by kind of assigning whether it's what you actually follow through with timeline wise or not, assigning like an idea of this is going to go to this quarter or this month, give you an idea of do I actually have enough time to do these things that I'm wanting to do? Is this actually a reasonable timeline? That's doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. That you can absolutely have challenging goals that are going to push you and be, beyond what you've done in the past, but making sure we don't have a million things planned for the year that we're just not going to have time for because that, my friends, has definitely been past me where even when I'm like, all right, I'm checking to make sure this is reasonable. I look at this category and it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely reasonable and this category. And then I have 10 different things planned for same time and then it's no longer reasonable. So that's also, we'll talk a lot about focus, but that can help a lot with that as well. So really just kind of having at least a general game plan of, all right, this is when I want to get this done. And then if you don't have a good idea of which quarter you want to assign things to at the beginning. When you do a quarterly check-in, you can be like, all right, what do I want to work on next? That kind of thing. But having kind of an assigned idea of when things are going to happen will make sure that they actually happen and get on your calendar and your schedule so that you don't get wrapped up in all of the other things, whether it's responding to Instagram comments or participating in a Facebook group or answering the emails or website edits that you weren't planning on making, all of the little things that add up that can basically pull us away from achieving our goals and our plans because we didn't take the time to really set aside a focus and a game plan. So like I said, number two, make sure it's reasonable. Just like it's so important for actually achieving things is that we aren't too big of a dreamer. That's not really what I mean because you can be a big dreamer and still focus. But too ambitious. Um, like part of setting yourself up for success is having reasonable expectations, I guess, for yourself. You can have big expectations, you can have big goals, and, want to achieve some challenging things, but also being realistic about is a year actually enough time to do this, especially if I have other things on my plate. Um, Alrighty. And then the next thing is knowing what you need to achieve in order to accomplish the goal. So maybe my goal is that I want to sell 100 patterns with this pattern that I'm releasing in July. So right now, it's January, February. I am wanting to release this in July. I want 100 pattern sales. I can do the math to figure out approximately, what my conversion rate is that I expect or what's typical. And then I have an idea of, okay, my audience needs to be this size and yada, yada, yada. So I know that I need to be growing my audience by X number of people by July. I know that I need to be nurturing that audience so that they like, know, and trust me. I know that I also need to create this design, right? Maybe I need to reach out to the yarn dyer I want to collaborate with, and then I need to do the swatching and the actual designing, and then I need to knit the thing, and then I need to make sure there's time for the tech editor and the testing, and then for edits and for any videos I'm recording, all of the things. So when it might be a pattern release is the goal, it might be easy to be like, oh yeah, I got plenty of time, I can totally do that. But when you break it down into the pieces, not only am I needing to get that pattern design created and edited and all of the things photographed, but I also need to make sure that I'm still taking care of my audience and I'm growing it and all of the things. So that can take time as well. So being realistic about, all right, I need to reach out to the yarn dyer and I need to do the actual designing in Q1 and then maybe start focusing on growing my list by the end of Q1, and then Q2, maybe I'm really focusing on nurturing my audience, growing my audience so that they're prime and ready for the pattern release in July. It's just so many pieces fitting together there, which, also goes back to having a game plan. And sometimes what you need in order to achieve something is to ask for help. Sometimes it's like, all right, I really need to learn how to do this. So I'm going to ask this expert. I need to take this class. I need to hire this coach. Maybe I need to ask for help for my website. I have a friend who's really good at that. I can trade services. We can do that. Or maybe it's I need to ask for help because I know I can't get all of this done if I have my kids running around and vying for my attention. And so maybe I will trade with a mom friend who she watches both of our kids together on one day of the week, and then I watch on another day of the week. And so then I have a day every week that is really cleared out so I can actually focus and get stuff done. Things like that really help set you up for success. They're not necessarily the thing that you are trying to achieve, but it's really important in order to achieve the thing. It might also be a type of resource that you need in order to achieve the thing. Maybe you need to invest in something for your website. Maybe you need to invest in the email platform. Maybe you need to buy your charting software like Stitch Mastery. Maybe you need to buy a class on grading. Maybe it's something more admin-y, like, all right, I need to sign up for this organizational tech that's going to just help me keep things in order. So I'm not wasting all my time scrambling, trying to remember, trying to pick up all the lost pieces. Yeah. So just really thinking about, all right, what do I really need in order to achieve this? What do I need from other people? What do I need from myself? Do I need to set some boundaries? Do I need to, really be a bit more disciplined, wake up an hour earlier so I can get this done before I go to my day job? Whatever it looks like. But being really honest with yourself about what do I need in order to achieve this, being really realistic about it, and then actually following through with those things so that you can actually achieve the thing. And so, like I mentioned, these might be steps that need to be taken weeks or months in advance in order to have everything set up properly to actually be successful. And, like I mentioned, building your email list, nurturing your audience, establishing a partnership relationship, um, getting the yarn, doing the designing, all of the things that take time and that they're building blocks that build on each other to make things more successful. All right, the next thing, let's talk about a little mindset, eh? Something that can feel so elusive and difficult, and is this actually real? Um, Scientifically, it is supposed to be. And I've experienced enough in life to know that my life backs up some of this as well. But my next tip is to believe that you can and that you will. Believing that we can and that we will achieve our goals and our plans helps us to be excited, to be inspired, to be motivated, to follow through. If you are feeling like, I really don't know if I can do this. Is it even worth it to put the time in it? Am I just, I don't think I'm going to actually accomplish it. Not only is that negative energy that now is just not feeling great, and it's going to make the project less exciting, less enjoyable for you to work on, but that can hinder us from actually spending the time. It can slow down like our actual progress as we're working through things. It can bring up a whole bunch of mind blocks of, I don't really want to work on this, or this is too hard, or um, just things that cause us to give up, might cause us to avoid it. It might cause us to just not really follow through. It might cause us to do it half-heartedly. And then you're not as excited and proud of the finished product, and your audience isn't going to be as excited about it. Our audiences pick up on our passion so much. When we're excited about something, they're more excited about something. So believing that you can and that you will not only helps you push forward, but it helps you love it so much more, helps you to enjoy it so much more. And it really can make it all that much more successful in the end. The next thing is to remember that you are in control. Um, there are so many things that when something comes up, maybe somebody wants something from us, maybe an opportunity comes up, or something that an obligation comes up, uh, whatever it is, know that you're in the control of the decisions that you make. How important is this goal and this plan for you? And make that decision. Am I willing to veer off into this other direction, or is it most important to me to stay on track here? And knowing that you make this decision consciously can help you really be satisfied with the decision and the consequences of that decision. Um, if we're like, well, at the end of the year, we're like, I didn't achieve this because all these people kept needing all these things from me, and I just have to do everything for everyone else. And it becomes this, and I 100% have been guilty of this, not pointing any fingers at all. But it can it can cause us to feel resentment, frustration. We feel like it's somebody else's fault. But when we realize that we're in control of our decisions and our actions, it is empowering. And it helps us to realize that we have agency, that we have chosen what is most important to us. And it's really just a balancing of priorities. What are, I think we talked about in another episode, what are my non-negotiables? What are the things that I'm willing to give up and what are the things that I'm not? Um, and then another aspect of being in control is which I guess another side tangent. It's interesting to me how much of a difference this can make even on our mindset of knowing that we're in control and that we're taking care of things. And it just feels so much better than feeling like we're in the passenger seat or we're just feeling like we're reacting to everything. I know this is something that I talked to a mentor about. Oh, I don't know, a year and a half ago, where I was like, I just feel like I'm reacting to everything. And um, it's just this really kind of gross feeling of like I'm just overwhelmed and exhausted and everything's being thrown at me. And that's not what I want to feel. And so really knowing like, all right, hey, I'm not in control of everything. There's a lot of things that happen in life, but I'm in control of my life and I choose how I'm going to react to things. I choose what I'm going to respond to. I choose how much it can impact me and what I'm going to do with my time and all of those kinds of things. So that's something that I have found extremely empowering. It doesn't mean it's not like an egotistical thing of, right, I'm in control, I'm better than everyone else. It's not that at all. It's really just like, um, this sense of agency in our own life that we already have, but so often maybe we feel like so many things are other people's fault. And it's just still because of decisions we've made. So one thing that we can do to be more in control is to do time audits. So if you're not familiar with a time audit is where you pay attention to absolutely everything that you do in a given day. And ideally, you do this over a week or 2 weeks to really get an idea of where your time's going. And so this can help us to know, like, all right, I spend this much time on emails. I spent this much time on a design. I spent this much time looking at yarn colors. I spent much time um, writing a new email, things like that. And I spent this much time playing games on my phone when I first woke up, or I spent this much time scrolling on social media. And so realizing where our time actually goes and where we want our time to go instead is super powerful because just being aware of like, oh, hey, if I didn't spend this hour every morning scrolling Instagram while I'm still laying in bed, that would be another hour I could be working on my goal or, spending time with my family, whatever is an important priority to you that you just feel like isn't happening right now. So knowing where your time is going, and then I'll also talk about schedules and stuff like that. But oh, here it is, right here. um, then we can organize and schedule things to help reduce decision fatigue and which also reduce overwhelm, to reduce burnout, to reduce frustration. There's so many things. But it also increases clarity and focus. So organizing things so that what we need is easy to find, easy to access. Um, Making sure our inbox isn't just a huge disaster waiting for responses all of the time. Whatever it is that's really kind of taking your time or taking space in your brain, and then creating schedules for, all right, instead of spending an hour on my phone in the morning, I want to get up and make a breakfast and then stretch for 5 minutes. Or um, I want to uh, spend this much time journaling, and then I will get into my work because I know that journaling actually helps get me into this mind frame that is excited, it's enthusiastic, but it's also not frantic and overwhelmed. Uh, just organizing and scheduling things out so that you know that it's actually going to work for you and it works really well for you, instead of leaving things off until 11 o'clock at night when you know you're so exhausted that you're not going to want to get it done, or it's going to take you twice as long to get done, or whatever it is. Yeah. So again, like I mentioned, I do have the worksheets, the templates. That can help with that. It can be so simple as, creating a daily schedule or listing out your priorities and tasks that are on your plate. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but just having it written down and decided ahead of time helps so much. Like, I don't even, it sounds crazy, I feel like, because it's so simple. And it might not feel simple, but that's why I created the worksheet template things, is to make it more simple. So anyway, um, doing all of that can help us simplify and focus. So say you write a list of all of the priorities that you have on your plate right now, or that you want to have, all of your goals, all of the things, and there's 20 things there. That is going to feel like a lot. It's going to feel overwhelming. If you're trying to work on all of those things at the same time, and I'm speaking from experience, um, you can start to feel scattered. You can just, like, the overwhelm is such a huge thing. And then you're not able to really dedicate yourself as well. Also, when we're shifting between projects and ideas and just tasks, takes our brain time to adjust. When we're, really kind of working on one project at a time, it's easier to set it down, pick it up, and keep working on it. So it's actually more efficient to not have 20 things that we're focused on at the same time. So I know for myself, it's really easy to be like, all right, I need to be focused on Instagram and YouTube and podcasting and email. And I also need to be creating some funnels, and I need to be editing my website, and I need to be creating these 4 designs, and I have these courses that I'm creating for Pattern Design Circle, and I also want to make these knitting classes. And it's a lot of weight, but it also takes so much just like brain space and power away. It's just kind of crazy, but it actually is true. And so focusing and simplifying things can help us with actually achieving. And I know I know how to squirrel. I I have ADHD. I know, how tempting it is to work on all the things. And yet I find it's also so satisfying to actually accomplish things and to do something really well. Um, I do also have the gift of hyper focusing when I do get into something. But um, yeah, so I just, like, I get the struggle. I totally understand it. And at the same time, this is a tool that, if you can figure out how to implement it in a way that feels good for you, it can be so, so powerful. So pay attention to, all right, out of this whole list of things that I want to achieve and accomplish, what is actually the most important? What is the priority? Choose one. Typically, you want to have one primary thing. So it's like, I'm working towards this collection. I'm working towards building my audience. I'm working towards one overarching thing that you're really focusing on for like that month. And then kind of like three kind of things that or like your sub focus. You don't really want more than 3 things that you're focusing on at once. Um, and So yeah, you can pick, all right, for this month, this is going to be my main priority. It doesn't mean that you can't do anything else. Like, we're still doing plenty of other things in our life, right? We still have family life. We still have personal life. We still have taking care of the house and, you know, all of dealing with food and if you have kids and all of the things. It's just helping simplify things in this one part so that you have a few less things that you're juggling. An interesting practice. Nicole Walters was a mentor of mine for a while, and one thing that she shared is, I think it was her. Anyway, this um, really image of having a plate. So you actually draw out the plate, or if you have a paper plate, you can draw on the plate, that actual plate if you want to. But drawing a circle on a paper and then writing down all of the things that are on your proverbial plate right now, including family, food, cleaning, work, your hobby knitting, your actual knitting projects for yourself, your other hobbies and crafts, your exercising, your whatever it is you do for enjoyment, all of those kinds of things that are all on your plate. And that visual can really help us see, like, oh, if I simplify in 4 different areas of my life, I can take a lot of things, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of stress off of the plate. I still have plenty of things that I'm juggling. I still have plenty of things to choose from for, if you want to be like, all right, it doesn't work for me just to say, all right, this is the only thing I'm gonna work on. But no, you have some options. But reducing that can help so much. So what is most important? Because being stretched thin is not the best option. Being stretched thin, doing so many things all of the time, results in lower quality work and results in more time required to get those things done. And it increases burnout, exhaustion, all of those things that we've already talked about. So part of simplifying and focusing is cutting back, taking out some things. Doesn't mean you have to take them out forever. It means I'm going to take them out for right now so that this is more manageable and I can actually achieve some things. And once that's this goal is taken care of, I'll pick up something else. I'll pick up the next thing that is really exciting me. And then really focusing on, what you actually choose to leave on your plate or put back on your plate, however you want to think about it, is what's most important to you. And, that's all comes down to your definition of success. What's a priority to you? It has to be things that are fun and light me up. It might be, that in this part of your business or this part of your life, this priority is the most important. Fun is most important, but in this part of your it's the money is most important. Whatever it is for you. But choose to focus on the things that are most important to you and or like the most successful aspects. So again, success is in your definition. It might be monetarily because we have to make money to survive, right? um, but so it might be, all right, these offers in my business, these patterns are definitely the highest income, like the most successful patterns. So I'm going to focus more on promoting those. Maybe I'll run a knit along, whatever. But that's a really helpful way to choose what to focus on. So I took a class year and a half ago from Marie Forleo, and a quote that she shared was from Warren Buffett. He said, the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. And I love this quote, in part because I know how to want to do all the things. I know how to try to achieve all the things. And I've proven to myself that that's not the best way to do things. It doesn't result in the results that I want. It doesn't achieve my definition of success. And so really learning to say no to things that just aren't the most important. They aren't the most successful. They aren't highest priority things, say no to those things. Saying no to those things leaves room for the important things. It means that you're not pushing out the most important things. When we say yes to everything, we are choosing what we are saying, what we are kind of depreciating. And sure, there are points in our business when we will say yes to opportunities that we won't say yes to later. There is, something to, if you want to get to this level, there are often some steps to take to get there, but really being strategic and clear on what you're going to say yes to makes it a lot easier to say no to everything else. There's a lot of FOMO that can come up in saying no, but if we're really clear and we're like, hey, this is what's important to me, and that's not on this list, it's a lot easier to say no. Uh, and something that Marie Forleo shared is that clarity is confidence. So, and I love this because, I've proven it for myself too. But just being super clear on, okay, this is what my business is. This is who I help. This is what is important to me. This is what my offer does. This is what it makes it so much easier to talk about it, to work on it, to share it with the world because we are more confident about it. It also, gives us the confidence to say no to other things. It gives us the confidence to say, this is my path. This is the most exciting thing to me. This is the most important thing to me. And it helps with that control aspect of like, like I have the agency and I'm, like I'm sticking to this path that is really important to me. And so another quote that she shared was just something that she had in her material was the cure for overwhelm is clarity. I just love that so much. I've shared, I've been coming out of burnout and overwhelm and exhaustion, all of the things. And a lot of that does come from trying to juggle everything. It comes from trying to do all of the things. And so I definitely have been trying to focus more, but I love that it's, specifically clarity, like being really clear on what's for me, what's not for me. What do I love? What lights me up? What doesn't? And I guess just from a recent experience of mine, realize that, sometimes it's unexpected things that help bring you that clarity. There was an opportunity that seemed really amazing, but there was just something that was really important to me that the other party just wasn't flexible on. It just didn't fit their goals, their needs, their expectations. And so it made it a lot easier to say no to that. And then it gave me a lot of clarity and confidence about what I am doing and what my purpose is and what my values are and things like that. So yes, clarity, confidence, focus, simplicity. If you haven't heard of, so this is all still part of simplifying and focusing. Sorry, this is a huge section. But if you haven't heard of the 80/20 rule, it's this philosophy which apparently has been proven over and over and over again in many, many, many facets of the world. And like just about every part of our life, that 80% of our energy goes into producing 20% of the results. So what that means is that a lot of time is wasted. And or not necessarily wasted, but it's not the mm, like it's just not the most efficient. Like uh there we could be achieving more if we really focused on the things that are actually driving success. Uh so like 20 if only 20% of our results are coming from 80% of the effort, that means that 80% of our results are coming from things that are only taking 20% of our effort. Um, and so the idea is, all right, focus on the things that are actually working. You can cut out so many things that are feeling just mundane and worthless and aren't getting anywhere. Yeah, so that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I've probably talked about it before here on the podcast, but if you want to look into it more, the 80/20 rule, it's fascinating. I I wouldn't say I've mastered it. I've tried a few times and I'm like, oh, okay, so I cut out this, and this, and it's easier said than done. But um, alrighty. So really, like this is kind of continuing the same conversation, but choose one primary focus. When you create your schedule, this is going now more into productivity kind of stuff, but when you create your schedule, you want to have certain blocks in that schedule, which actually I maybe talk about here in a second, but you want to have certain blocks in your schedule that are specifically for focus. So nothing's going to distract you. You've made sure nothing else is going on. You're not going to check any emails. You're not going to check social media. Your family knows that you're not available, or maybe you have the kids doing a certain activity that you know it will take them 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it needs to look like for you. But having these focus periods specifically, have one thing, one primary focus that you're going to really focus on in those times. So it's like the most important thing that you're spending your most valuable time, that you're most focused and most present for, spending it on those hours. So a primary focus, it might look like building your audience. It might look like nurturing your audience. It might look like selling to your audience. It might look like a certain pattern collection. It might look like a web redesign. Whatever it is, that it's really like your top priority in that for that month, that quarter, whatever that season is. And again, that's why I really love having the actual priorities listed out. So, like this sheet that I like to use that has the top listing the top 3 priorities for the day, for the week, and for the month, really helps me be like, okay, what is most important? Because sometimes maybe I'll have some tasks listed out where I'm like, all right, I'd literally like to get blah 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 all this stuff done today, or all this stuff done this week. But then when I'm like, all right, what's actually my priority for this month? And none of this is actually going towards this. This is kind of really like busy work that I've set up for myself. It's stuff maybe that's still important to me, but it's just not moving me forward on the goal that I really want to achieve right now. And I found this is interesting because even just in January, I had like for the month, like it's still here. Um, I had certain goals that like these are my top priorities for the month, and I did not do any of them. Yeah, so yeah, because my actual daily priorities that I had set up were not the things that were actually aligned with the bigger goal. So super helpful. Definitely something that I'm like, oh, that's why that didn't happen. That's why I'm still feeling behind on that. Yeah, so alrighty. A few more things that we can do just to set ourselves up for success. I I really like this idea of, and I've mentioned the phrase over and over again, but of setting yourself up for success, of doing what we can to really equip ourselves, to prepare ourselves, to, I don't know, kind of just build this platform that leads to success, whatever your definition of success is, whatever, is most important to you. But one thing that we can do to set ourselves up for success is to create an environment that is inviting, that is conducive to actually getting the things done. And this is interesting because I used to always work in my office every single day. And then, especially after, or like, well, I guess last year in May, it got to this point where I just like, I could hardly stand to go into my office. And it was a very like just so many emotions. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I'm just exhausted. And so I started actually working down in my living room. And, some people will be like, don't do that, like, uh, that you're not going to be successful there, yada, yada, yada. But for me, it was a much more positive space. I felt more like just safe and comfortable. And it's what I needed to allow me to actually get things done. I know some people will actually even Marie Forleo, I think she shared that for her, it's like the dining room or the island in the kitchen or dining room table or something. It was like I think it was in the kitchen and it wasn't like her office, but that was like her space where she just was a lot more productive. Maybe it was very specifically for writing or something. I don't remember exactly, but just knowing like what spaces light you up, what spaces are good for maybe certain activities. Maybe there's one space in your house that's really inspiring for design ideas. Maybe there's another space that really motivates you in email writing. You can move around. You don't have to be in the same space all the time. If you live in a studio apartment, maybe it's this corner versus that corner, and it's because of the decor, it's because of the way the light comes in. Um, Whatever it is. But you don't have to move to the perfect space. You can also bring in elements to make whatever space you have more more inviting and conducive. Maybe it's something about having a candle lit, a certain scent that calms you and gets you into a focused zone. Maybe it is having everything cleared away and organized. Maybe it is certain colors. Maybe it's some really fun, creative artwork. Whatever it is, you can surround yourself with these things. Maybe, some people, they'll create kind of this ritual of like, all right, I light the candle, I warm up some tea, and I turn on my essential oil diffuser. And that's kind of the thing that I guess maybe do we have candle and a diffuser at the same time? Anyway, the idea is, doing the things that are going to set yourself up for success by creating an environment that you're going to enjoy and that, makes it easier to get your work done. Uh, Another way that we can set ourselves up for success is knowing our energy, our daily energy cycle and times of day for what works best. So, if you are curious, there's an app that I used for a little while. It's called Rise Sleep, I think. Um, and it tracks it basically creates like what your circadian rhythm is of like, all right, you are groggy this time of day, and then your energy really peaks at this point, and then you kind of drop off a bit, and then you have like a second peak at this time. Um, Super fascinating. I don't know if you need to have yeah, it's called Rise Sleep Tracker. Here, I'll show you on the video if you're watching the video. Whoops. This one here. Um, and so it just like gives you kind of basically your schedule of what your energy is every day. And so then I can be like, all right, so I know my energy, it's pretty low until, let's say, I don't remember the times, but let's say 9:30 a.m. And then I know from there it's like going uphill. It peaks at 11:30, it drops, and then it peaks again. I think mine peaks again in the evening at like 8 or something. Um, but so then I can be like, all right, my primary focus, the things that are really important to me that I really need to get done or that take a lot of energy, brain space. I need to be motivated and inspired and be able to get into a creative flow. Those things are going to happen at that like 9:30 to 11:30 block where I'm just much more inspired. And then I know that maybe the more mundane things that just they need to get done, but they're not going to require as much brain space. Those things can happen in the afternoon when I kind of having a lull in my energy, or I could choose to take a break, take off the afternoon, do something else that's going to help my energy, go for, I was going to say go for a run. I probably wouldn't go for a run personally, but maybe that's something you love. Go spend some time outside, do something creative, play with a hobby or a craft. And then maybe you come back later, or maybe you don't, whatever. But like really knowing our energy cycles is super fascinating to really help us be more efficient and more successful with our time. Now, I know several knitting pattern designers don't do this as a full-time thing. They have kids, they have a full-time job, whatever your situation is. Maybe you can't change your full-time job hours. And so you can't, you can't do your knitting pattern design stuff in your ideal time. You can still apply this for tasks that you are doing in work, but instead, then it can maybe give you an idea. All right, is it best for me to wake up earlier and take care of things then? Is it better for me to stay up later after the kids have gone to bed, after I've had dinner, after, whatever? Is it better for me to just say spend a few hours on Saturday during my peak energy cycle season time? Whatever it looks like for you, that can be super helpful for setting ourselves up for success. Because when we, and I know I've talked briefly about even like menstrual cycles and stuff like that, and seasonal cycles. There are so many cycles, but when we are trying to push ourselves to do really hard things, when it's a cycle that just doesn't align with that, it's going to be a lot harder to get that done. It's going to feel a lot more, well, difficult, might be more frustrating, might be more overwhelming, it might take a lot longer. So really kind of lining things up so that we're taking advantage of things that already exist is an amazing way to set ourselves up for success. And then utilize help, whether that's a tool. There's so many free tools out there. There are paid tools out there. If we're talking about scheduling, I think it's the Motion app that some folks have said that they really love. It like automates their schedule for them and everything. Maybe it's a tool like an autoresponder on your email, or a tool like I don't know, just different things that you can automate or that can help you organize things, or whatever that looks like. You can also utilize help as far as people. So who is in your network, who knows things that you need help with, or is able to trade services with, or maybe you can pay them, or maybe it's somebody you hire, things like that. But utilizing help can definitely set ourselves up for success. We don't have to do this alone. Even if we are entrepreneurs, we don't have to do this alone. So, alrighty, just a couple more things. I think we're right at an hour, so this isn't a long podcast. But anyway, planning out tomorrow, planning out the week in advance is incredibly helpful. Like it's just proven scientifically and through so many people, so many entrepreneurs, especially, that making a plan for tomorrow, plan in advance, is going to help so much. Not only does it help with decision fatigue in the moment, helps with kind of like procrastinating and all of that, helps with not like prevents doing tasks that aren't moving forward on your priorities. And just in general, like overwhelm of not knowing, like, what am I going to do today? Or feeling like you have all these things you need to focus on, but don't have a specific direction. Planning out in advance helps so much. So whether it's using one of these worksheets or just writing it down on a sticky note or whatever it looks like for you, just writing it out helps so much. I know for myself that it helps so much just with my mental clarity and overwhelm when I write it down. All right. And especially if I write it in the order of I'm going to do it. I'm like, all right, this is the first thing I want to get done, and then this, and then this. And then it's so easy the next day. It's just like, all right, doing this, this, and this. If there's something that I really don't want to do, I might skip over it, do the next thing. And then that's usually something that gets moved, and then, I'm not achieving it. But anyway, planning for tomorrow today is super valuable. It can be 5 minutes or less in a day to help already set yourself up for success for the next day. If you want to, you can also, be a little bit more robust in your plan. Can think about what your focus blocks are going to be. If you already have a set daily schedule, you can say, all right, this is my focus time, and this is the one task that I really need to focus on at that point, whatever that looks like. So you can pay attention to what your focus time is. You can pay attention to making sure you make time for breaks, because one of our recent episodes was all about that, just the importance of making time for rest, for yourself, for food, for just kind of gaining energy again. I'm like picturing like a battery recharging. That's the word I was looking for. Alrighty. And then, what are you doing to work towards your primary goal? You've decided that this primary goal, this is what I really want to focus on. This is the most important thing. Are you actually working towards that? Are you actually taking steps towards that? And then in general, don't try to plan more than 3 tasks for a day. Sometimes, I definitely have more than that, because it's like, all right, I have this thing that's going to take me 5 minutes. I have this thing that's going to take me 20 minutes. And I have 5 hours or something. So I might have a few more, but I find in general, it is pretty true that 3 tasks, especially if it's a multi-step task, is right about perfect. And I know that that's what experts recommend as well. So again, if you want the resource, I do have these templates available in several designs, several color themes. There's multiple sheets to print out or download, whatever you want to do with them. One of the main things is to keep consistent when it comes to being successful, following through, actually getting things done, even when we're not excited or inspired. Now, you would know that I am one of, if you're dealing with burnout and overwhelm and all of the things, that is a little bit different situation. Sure, there are things that we can do to keep consistent through that, but sometimes maintaining consistency can just make the overwhelm and burnout worse. It depends, kind of what your situation is. But in general, keeping consistent with things, it can help us. It can help motivate us. It can help inspire us. There are times when it'll just be like, it's an off day, but if you just keep doing it, you'll get through it, and you're ready again in a day or two to, you're actually excited again. But also keeping consistent means that you can see results coming through, and that can be really inspiring and motivating if you're anything like me. And just maintaining that consistency makes it easier. If we do something and then we take a long break, it's harder to start up again. So maintaining that consistency just for our own ease is super helpful. And then last but not least, which is the thing that I've shared with you before, I struggle the most with, is taking time to reflect. So this is the end of the month. reflect on the month. At the end of the quarter, reflect on the quarter. Maybe the end of a project, reflect on it. Analyze like kind of these topics that we've been talking about. Did I stay focused? How did it feel? What distracted me? What didn't go well? What are my analytics? Like analyze not only the kind of the emotional, mental kind of side of things, but also the number sides of things. Like, all right, this is how sales went, or this is how growing my audience actually went. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. And using that information to be like, all right, this felt good and this worked. I should do more of that. Or this felt horrible and it had horrible results. Like it just didn't work. It's not worth continuing to do that. So reflect, analyze, and use that information to either pivot. Might be pivoting on a goal or a plan, or maybe it's pivoting smaller scale, and making adjustments. Being like, all right, so this is the direction I'm heading. This is what I tried. This is what worked. So I'm going to do more of that. This didn't work. So now I want to test this instead. But in making those adjustments to move forward. If you're anything like me, I like to just move from one task to the next. I like to, I have ascribed to hustle culture more than would like to admit. I like the sense of achieving and finishing things, and that I do know has not made my business as successful. It's led to some frustration for sure. There are some lessons I've learned the hard way, but I know if I took more time in the past to analyze, especially some of the numbers and things, that would have given me information that would help influence decisions so that I wouldn't just keep pushing on things that weren't working, and could lean into more things that do work. So that's exactly how we learn, how we improve, how we grow as humans and businesses and all the things. Anyway, so thanks for hanging in for me with, a longer episode. I feel like my episodes used to be this long and somehow they started getting shorter, but I think that's a lot of tips on how to follow through on your plans and your goals. I hope you took notes. I hope you found some stuff that's really helpful and inspiring. Use the resources that you need. If you need something to remind you to, choose priorities, create a to-do list, create a daily schedule, check out the link in the bio. If you need a community or a coach or something just for accountability and support, check out Pattern Design Circle. If you need something for resources to teach you how to do marketing and business and that stuff, check out Pattern Design Circle. I'm here to support you. I want you to succeed. It makes me so happy to see you achieving your plans and your goals. So I am here cheering you on. If there's something from this podcast episode that resonated with you, feel free to reach out. I would love to hear something that you're planning to implement, or maybe something that you've implemented recently that is just working super well. And otherwise, I will catch you again on the next episode. I guess the next episode is going to be a guest that I actually just scheduled. But after that, I'm super excited. I think it's finally the last episode in this series about planning and stuff. And we're talking about making things fun in your business, and I'm super excited about it. So I will see you back then. Enjoy the guest episode before then, and wishing you all the beautiful things. Chat soon. Wow, thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful for me and means the world to me. Chat soon.